Oh, on James's stream, yeah. Wrecked with the Lee Sin jungle. The exhaust has come down. The flash, because there is no flash to answer. And first blood to James. You watched some part of it? Oh, God. But that was a horrible game for me. I played like crap. No worries, Alea. I'll see you soon. Alright. The Ahri flash is a little bit questionable. She's giving up a lot of farm to the Morgana in mid lane right now. Very, very interesting. Alright, the Q misses. Nice sidestep from Liviu there. A little bit of trading in the bot lane. And of course, although he got the first blood, he has not yet been back to spend. So that is not ineffective stats. That is simply gold in his pocket. Oh, the binding comes straight through there. Lovely stuff. And the immediate follow-up bind, though. Really good damage from the Jhin there. He's trying to get the last autos. He's not going to get them. That's so late that you can get just one game. Okay. I'm going to put up a post asking for feedback. You know, like a feedback channel. So if people can have it earlier and you would like it to be earlier, feel free to throw it in there and we'll see what we can do. This was just a trial run. I wasn't sure we'd actually get any people show up to play, so we have far exceeded my expectations. Alright, we got some good poke there. The binding is going to land. The Vayne is here. Run amok claims the kill. A condemn into the wall. The flash was used earlier by the Jhin. And the kill is claimed. Really nice gank there. And for once, the Blue Orcas fly out to an early lead in the game. And it looks like the Crimson Lions have failed a gank attempt in the top lane to answer the bot lane gank, which is going to leave the scuttle uncontested. And Lee Sin doesn't look like he wants to go for that scuttle crab, so should be going to sleep now, so see you next time. Alright, Massey, remember, you know, feel free to drop it in the feedback channel when I create it, and we'll see what we can do. Sleep well, buddy, and thank you for playing. Pleasure, as always. A little bit of poke damage coming out of the Vayne there, just to push the Morgana out of the lane. Yeah, it seems pretty straightforward. He is going back with a decent gold lead, I think. Over his opposite number. Not really, actually. They're about the same because of the initial assist. I really thought there'd be a bit more of a lead, but apparently not. So let's sort out this scoreboard, shall we? Mordekaiser versus Krakus top. Morg versus Ahri mid. Taric versus Lux support. Ezreal versus Jhin. Vayne versus Lee Sin. There we go. Hey. Get that love in the chat. Alright, so bot lane right now is pretty equal. Nice binding there from the Lux lands. A little bit of follow-up poke damage. Really nicely done. The sidestep does come out. The Taric E whiffs. And in this battle of boyfriend versus boyfriend, we have yet to determine a clear winner, because despite getting out to an early lead with that flash E, Liviu has since given up kills to Revillo, and it looks like this is about to go from bad to worse for the Crimson Lions bot lane. Nice binding comes in, and the Vayne picks up an easy kill. Looks like it's going to be 2, using the E slow duration there before popping it for maximum damage, and the Vayne gets a double kill. The Blue Walkers really are flying out to a lead this game, and it's nice to see it because they're 3-1 down. No? Actually, no. No. It's 2-1 right now to the Crimson Lions, so let's see if we can finish the night, or at least this game, at an even scoreline. Looks like right now the Lux is running interference as the Drake is started. It is warded, and ward has not been cleared out. So there is likely to be a contest here. And the Cloud Drake, remember, is the highest DPS dragon of them all. Nice smite flash out, and it looks like they're going to poke them off. And just finish securing the dragon from themselves. But there is mid lane support right now. The Morgana is coming in. Blue team gets the dragon, but the shutdown goes over to the Jhin, and a second kill onto the Lux might come over. Charm does land on the black shield, really nice black shield onto the Lee Sin there. And it looks like Virgil may have bitten off more than he can chew, and if that's not historically accurate, I really don't know what is. The second kill goes down, so the dragon goes down for 2 kills to 1. Pretty even trade, and if they can stack those drakes, that drake's going to end up being more valuable in the future. But as of this moment, I think it's safe to say that the Crimson Lions will be feeling very happy about that one. Liviu stacking up that support item in the mid lane there, and then heading back to restock on wards and support his bot laner. Looks like the Ezreal is a little bit ahead of the Jhin. Nice pop on the trap there to make sure it doesn't run any interference on any further Vayne ganks, because this bot lane has proven susceptible to the old sneakaroo through the bush from the Vayne. And that could end up causing them some problems slightly further down the line. Looks like top lane is going relatively equal this game. Bit of a farm lead for Anarchy, but I don't think Gragas beats Mordekaiser in the trades, so Gragas is just doing what he can. The lane is not in a favourable position for him. And I would expect that CS lead to grow into a fairly meaningful advantage. Looks like the Ahri is losing a trade right now to the Morgana. The Charm lands, and Morg does not have much mana, but the auto attacks might just do it here. And they do the solo kill in the mid lane from the Morgana. Very nicely done. And the Gragas has teleported and got into the bot lane. There is a kill there onto the Jhin. Unfortunately, it is traded back, and it looks like Lux may have gone. No, Lux did not go down. Okay, Lux was recalled at the time. The Morgana right now is hunting for the other binding. I'm not sure she's going to get it. Looks like the EOA is just on time, although Ezreal cut that very, very fine. And, yeah, looks like this turret is going to take a little bit of chip damage. Nothing too serious, though, and if Georgia is not careful... Oh, the binding does land, but there's no follow-up from the Lee Sin there. I really think he could have done something if he was a bit more aggressive. I feel like he held on just a little bit too long to his Q and could potentially have gotten something done there, but you know what? If he didn't feel confident, best just to leave that be. The Vayne is ganking right now, needs to avoid the Death Realm. Nice stun into the wall, into an immediate knockup. Zonia's to avoid the majority of the damage. Looks like Anarchy is just going to run under his tower and accept the survival. Nicely dodged. Very well played by him there, dragging the low damage target rather than the highly mobile Vayne into the Death Realm. It looks like the Collapse is coming 5 strong into the top lane. The Vayne is going to have to try to get out here, but looks like the Collapse was not quite well orchestrated enough without the Mordekaiser ult that was just forced to lock anybody down. And it seems that this is just going to fizzle out. Ahri is making her way from base to the top lane in case of any shenanigans. But there are no nanigans of Shen to be had. And so that play will amount to naught. Something we've noticed is that the jungle impact in previous games when Anarchy was playing jungle was significantly higher for his team than that of the Lee Sin. The Lee Sin has really struggled to make anything happen here in the lanes, whereas the Vayne, someone you traditionally think of as having less gank potential, has really, you know, come in and made a big difference. Anarchy wins the fight there, ripping the Vayne apart. Nice dodge on the Q with the body slam. However, I think the E is going to come up in a minute and it's going to be quite difficult for him to make his way out. There's the passive activation, and it burns the Gragas down. Nice binding from the Lux there. Roots him just inside of tower range. Dodges the stun. However, the auto attacks are going to come through, and the Crimson Lions are beginning to climb out to a lead. What looked like it could have been promising with the gank in the top lane has become disastrous for the Blue Orcas. The Ezreal ult flies through, takes a little bit of damage off of the Jhin, but won't amount to anything. And we can see that this lead in the top lane, if I tab and look at the gold, is getting huge. Right now, it's almost a 2k gold lead, 1.7 roughly. And that's really difficult to come back from in the 1v1, especially when you're playing tank Gragas versus a Mordekaiser that is going to stack that health shred. Now, the dragon will probably be contested, but it looks like the Crimson Lions are there just a little bit ahead. They will need to be poked off. Now, the smite is in the pit, but with the TP coming through from the top laner, the Blue Orcas have disengaged, and I think wisely so. There's a fight going down in the mid lane. The charm does land, preventing the Death Realm. The grab back does come in, but Aniki does not decide to pull the trigger on that one with the Ariel being out. Holds on to his ultimate for any potential fights and walks away. Looks like the Vayne here is going to pick up a couple of kills. No, the ult Zhonya's. The huge play from Morgana saves the Taric and grants them push over this turret. The Comet goes onto the target it hit first, being the Jhin, and so doesn't quite execute the Morgana, despite a well-aimed true shot barrage. The Ahri has been killed, and Gragas is waddling his way in behind their ranks right now. Looks like he's going to flash. Got instantly bound. A strong binding. Unfortunately, the tower shot combined with the Gragas cask was enough to kill the Morgana, and then the Lee Sin, who was stuck under the turret. So a nice counterplay there from the Gragas, but all in all, this is beginning to snowball pretty heavily. As while Gragas was mid lane, the top lane was picking up extra plates and extra farm, and you can see that the CS lead is nearly double.
Just to point out what I pointed out to them, I did shout Gragas, as you probably heard, and forgot I was on mute. Yeah. So they all had a good laugh at me for that.
You're not supposed to interject in the commentary. You're a player. Shut up. Alrighty. Wards are being cleared out in the mid lane. Setting up for a siege here. Tower is still pretty healthy, however, and without the Rift Herald. And I'm not sure where the Rift Herald was dropped, or even if it was. I doubt they'll be able to get much done. Recti does go in, lands a good chunk of damage onto Virgil, but unfortunately for Virgil, he didn't really land the counterplay there, and Rect was just able to walk out. I mean, if Rect wanted, he could go for the kill there, but he would likely die to the Vayne. And I think Noria is just going to have to give up this turret here. I don't think there's a whole lot he can do about it. Looks like his team has come to reinforce him on time, however, and this is becoming very quickly an NA ram. Looks like Recti might actually try for this. Oh, the interrupt from the Gragas. Errol with the sick play. Nice Gragas cast. The Zhonya's from Morgana was very clutch. The Taric ult is coming in, and this fight is going to go very heavily in the favor of the Crimson Lions. There is nothing that the Blue Orcas can do. The Vayne is trying her heart out, but alas, it's too little, it's too late, and her front line is gone. Looks like the Ezreal is going to do a little bit of poking onto the Lee Sin, but that's all he is going to get done today. The siege does continue. The binding is narrowly dodged out on. And it looks like this turret will survive for now as the blue team rallies to defend it. The blue buff transfer is going over onto the Taric. Keep the mana ready to spam for those heals, a very sensible precaution. Especially given that their mid laner doesn't really need it. Nice binding. The Black Shield was late, but the stun does come through from Liviu. Looks like the kill is going to be picked up. Unfortunately, Liviu now is out of position, and the Luxalt comes over the top, giving the kill to the Ezreal. Revi picking that one up. Lux is continuing to chase, but the binding does go wide. And that will be the end of that one. Looking at map state right now, blue team has managed to drive the red team off of the Herald. And it didn't release, which is good for them. They're picking it up just before the Infernal Drake, and that should give them leverage to secure the second Drake for their team, third in the game overall, and begin stacking that dragon. It may not work out that way, however, as we saw. The last Rift Herald got absolutely nothing done, as I believe Nori died with it on him. We are beginning to see what I assume is a Kraken Slayer being completed, but unfortunately, due to, having died a little bit, despite the 2 kills, Nori he must be sitting on a fair amount of gold right now. He should have Kraken Slayer when he backs, but, that item is not yet complete or ready, and I think that when it is, it will cause some significant issues. Nice binding from the Morgana there onto the Vayne. The Vayne uses the Condemn, but unfortunately the pool damage is a little bit too much, and smites the Vayne all the way back into the Shadow Realm. Nice charm does land, a little bit of damage onto Cammy there. The binding lands onto Ahri, dissuading any further follow-up, and Errol guesses wrong on which way the Morg went. The knockback does come through. A nice Sonya's. It looks like, again, the Morgana is going to walk out with nice use of Black Shield and Zhonya's. She's absolutely smurfing this mid lane this game. I know I'm a little bit biased, but she's doing really well. The dragon, in the meantime, is going to go to the blue team. Beautiful ultimate steal from the Lux there. Very, very nicely done. The Jhin fires the shots over the top, but sadly, it's a swing and a miss on that one. Now, the Morg is very low in the mid lane, taking a lot of damage. Needs to be quite careful here that a binding does not land, but the level up. Oh, there's the binding, followed by the E and the True Shot Barrage, but the True Shot Barrage goes ever so slightly wide, and Morgana scrapes away with her life, managing to avoid falling into the Death Realm this game. Perhaps Mordekaiser giving her just a little bit of a hand there. Some counter-jungling going on in the blue side jungle. The Raptors are being taken away as best as possible by the Crimson Lions. But unfortunately, they're not going to be able to secure the full camp safely and have backed off. Looks like the Ahri might be in trouble. A little bit of miscommunication there between the team. The Taric stun came through, but the Lee Sin was very late to react and does dive for it, having dived into 3 people without the benefit of that added crowd control. A nice pickup there from the Mordekaiser to answer back on the Ahri. Will equalize the trade, but even so, it seems like there's a little bit of communication lacking for members of our red team. The binding does land. The Vayne dodges, and the Kraken Slayer W proc comes in and murders her. Unlucky, but what are you going to do versus that double true damage proc from the jungle? It's a very strong combination. The true damage proc on the W being percent and the flat true damage proc on the Kraken Slayer combining to make a beastly amount of damage versus squishies. We can see that the Mordekaiser is TPing in behind them right now. The Herald has nearly broken that mid lane turret, but it has not gone down. Gragas is answering. He's getting ready to join this fight. He lands the knock-up. The Death Realm has come out onto the Gragas, and the Gragas has nowhere to go. The cask is flashed, and he is in the middle of the team. It looks like the Vayne is trying her best, but she's just being focused by too many people, and the Taric ult comes through, saving the Liviu at the expense of Anaki's life. The Lux here needs to dodge the next shot. Looks like he's aiming for Ahri, and Lux and Ahri do both slip away, as well as Nori, who somehow played the Great Escape, killed the Lee Sin, and got out. How dare I not see your kill on Lee there? Let's have a look. Let's watch that team fight again. We're going into replay mode. And because I was watching the Jhin, that's why. We have a confirmed stream sniper in the chat, ladies and gentlemen. Very nicely done. Very nicely done. Okay, we're coming straight back into it. The Morgana has ulted. Gragas moves out of the Terror, and the explosion of the Luxie and the Gragas barrel removes her from the face of the Rift. Looks like that mid turret will finally be going down. If the blue team make a concerted effort, it will die to a strong sneeze, or perhaps a coronavirus cough, given the times. And the turret has gone down. The Jhin is moving in, along with the Lee Sin and the Mordekaiser, to threaten flanks and defend that mid lane turret. It looks like the Ahri was caught, but the Mordekaiser has started focusing the Ahri. The double binding comes through. The Taric has gone down to the combination of Vayne and Lux damage. The Gragas has once again been pulled into the Death Realm, and I don't think there's many ways he's surviving it this game. The shield does come through immediately on the way out the Death Realm. Very nicely timed. The Vayne is ripping the Mordekaiser to shreds. The Jhin appears to be next. He's going for the Morg. Dodges the binding. The kiting is strong, but unfortunately the Lee Sin area of effect damage ends the Vayne's potential pentakill chances. Looks like the QSS has come out on the Lee Sin, which is a strong idea. Prevents him getting CC chained to death. The Q will just whiff, allowing the Lux to run out. The emote spam, the BM, the laugh has come out. Letting the Lee Sin know what he thinks of his strength. The very kind Mordekaiser telling the Gragas to build a QSS, trying to help him out a little bit here after he's murdered him a few times. And Vayne did pick up a very important item. Vayne has now finished Rageblade, which, while it doesn't have the same passive as it did previously, is still very strong. Every third attack applies your on-hit effects twice. Well, I talked about the double true damage already. That is now going to be coming through at quadruple true damage, effectively, or double the double true damage, which is a fun thing to say. Looks like it didn't help him though. The Morgana binding did come through, and he was sniped down at the beginning of that fight. The fourth dragon of the game will go over to the Crimson Lions, equaling the dragon count at 2-2. If a steal does not come through, and the Lux is most certainly looking for it. It's coming in from the back now. It wasn't seen. Looks like the binding comes through, and the Lux will probably die here. She's going to try and make her way out. That was really nicely done, actually. He jukes the lead. The binding is going to come up, and the E. The shutdown has come through. The stun onto the Taric. And unfortunately, the Ezreal did get yoinked into the Death Realm. He is now going to die. The binding does come through. The E from the Mordekaiser misses. The Lux is kiting for sheer life. But I'm not entirely sure there's anything they can do. Knocks themselves back. That misses. The ult comes through. He kills the Taric. Lux with the MVP play. Somebody signed this guy up for an LCS team. What a champ. Alright, the Mordekaiser does claim the kill in the end, but not before sustaining significant losses. The cast comes out as the BM. He goes in. Has he bought the QSS? Let's have a look. No, he has not. So he is in trouble. The Vayne is there, though. The binding missed. The Vayne true damage does take it out. And now Morgana is going to meet the same unceremonious end. And it looks like at this point, ladies and gentlemen, the writing may well be on the wall for our team, the Crimson Lions, who are going to give over a quadra kill to the Vayne here. That will only not be a penta because the Taric was killed by Lux before. Really nicely done. The Vayne is becoming terribly strong right now. Very, very strong indeed. And honestly, Baron at this point should just be a formality with the Lee Sin dead and the Vayne's ability to shred it. Gragas may TP in to tank this. I'm not entirely sure. He is very low on health. Looks like the Ezreal is going to run interference, doing his best to poke his boyfriend on the enemy team. The ward does come down. Lux is running interference, and it looks like the Vayne has decided that she can't actually tank this. She needs somebody else, and so she's headed over to the blue buff to pick that up and continue scaling into the late game. Q lands from the Ezreal there, taking nearly half of Morgana's health, and the red buff burn is doing the rest. Beefy hit. The binding does land, the ult is coming out, the Zonias and the Black Shield, you only needed one of them, but good job Morgana, you lived. Well done, and the flash did have to come out there. The Death Realm has grabbed, who's it grabbed? It's grabbed the Ezreal. Unfortunately, the Ezreal is going to go down for the Lux's sins, but all in all, that could have been a lot worse. I've got to say, Jack's Lux is extremely impressive, as it always has been. It's been a Lux one-trick in a lot of ways. Well, not a one-trick, but it has been one of his best champions for a long time. And he consistently impresses me with how much he is able to get out of that champion from the support role or the mid lane role. Mordekaiser heals up the damage done by the True Shot Barrage. I'm sorry I'm slowing down and speaking a bit, but I've commentated 3 games this evening, solo, and my throat gets a little sore after a while. Charm misses, Binding goes wide, and the red team is sieging down mid right now. It looks like they're trying to get control over the Baron. But knowing that this is a low-level shitfest, it's probably just for the fight, and as I say it starts. The Ahri does go down to a Lee Sin engage. That is a wonderful cast, scattering the enemy very, very wide indeed. Lux lands a double binding, but the fight is already over and disengaged. Alright. Comet comes through, nearly snipes the Morgana. The ult does come out of the Lux. The Zonias comes out of the Morg to answer, and she will survive. True Shot Barrage is coming up very quickly, and the Morgana does have to be very careful. She's going to back on a ward. The True Shot Barrage could realistically come out here and snipe, but it looks like he's going to save the cooldown for the dragon fight instead. The Jhin is very out of position right now. He is rotating for the dragon, but he will be a little bit late. Virgil in the mid lane is trying to clear out that wave. Not okay, because spells are on cooldown. And really it comes down to what can the Vayne do, as it does in so many of Vayne's games. Vayne takes the ult, QSS's it immediately, and the binding does land. The ult comes through, it chunks health off of 2 people. The True Shot Barrage also landing some initial poke damage. And I think now they've got to be very worried about engaging, although the binding does land from the Morgana. The cask goes through, and the Mordekaiser is going to be ripped to shreds. The Zonias comes through. The ult is trying to cover him, but it doesn't quite get there. The Taric Flash misses. And the double kill does come through, but the Vayne survives. Maybe they can do something with this, although I would not recommend they try. The Lux does almost have her ult back up, has an E, has a Q. I think it'd have to be a Q steal. The 4th bullet from the Jhin does do the job. And the soul point goes to the Crimson Lions. This game has been very close, and I still feel like it could go either way. Like, there is a slight gold lead right now for the Crimson Lions and the Drake lead, but to be honest with you, all it is one fight away from the Vayne absolutely murdering the team and just running it down the mid lane or to the Baron. And this game is completely equalized, and Vayne is very capable of doing that as a champion. She specializes in these late game situations. And the Blade of the Rune King is coming out now, which is really going to help her in terms of sustain. It's going to give her a little bit of extra attack speed, which is going to help the true damage procs, because obviously there are going to be more of them with more attack speed. More attack speed equals more tumbles, technically, as well. Just slightly, but still a fact. Because the faster the auto attack hits and fires from the tumble, the faster it starts resetting, I think. But that's not going to be hugely important. Forget I said it. Okay, the fight is now moving to around the Baron. The Ezreal and the Ahri playing the bottom side of the fight, looking for poke damage right now. The binding does land onto the Ezreal. The QSS comes out to save him, but the Lee Sin has gone down to the Vayne, and now Baron priority is going over to the blue team. Between the Gragas tank and the Vayne, I don't think there's much chance for a contest, especially with the Jhin in the base. There would have to be a full-on engage, and the Morgana just lost 75% of her health, so I think that this one just has to be giving the Baron up. The steal attempt does come through. The Gragas goes over the wall, gets the cask, but it is black shielded, and then the Ezreal snipe comes through. Some good black shields this game from the Morgana, it does have to be said. But unfortunately, there was just a little bit too much damage there, and now with the Baron, with the 2 kills, they have the pressure to push down this lane and see what they can do about base damage, about ending. The Jhin ult is coming over, which is nice. It's going to do some significant damage. Lux nearly goes down. The Zonius comes out, but unfortunately, once the Zonius ends, it is going to be a formality for the Mordekaiser, and the Mordekaiser right now is going to get the Taric ult. The Vayne can kite this. There's nothing the Mordekaiser can do. But the question is, can the Vayne kite well enough to get out of the stun? No, she cannot. The Taric stun does land, and that is a teamfight ace and a Baron clear. This game, ladies and gentlemen, has been so close that I'm going to have to take a Strepsil because I have been talking for the better part of 32 minutes. And I've had 2 similarly long games this evening as well as streaming, so... Alright, looks like the inhib is going to go over. Advantage Crimson Lions. And the Drake will, I believe, be up relatively shortly. Although I can't actually tell, because I can't access the in-game tab menu. Which would tell me. Sad life. Okay. The Vayne is going to pick up the red buff, which is going to help for damage here. And I honestly think this game is going to be a lot of team fights. The red team is pinging that the dragon will be up in about 1 minute and 20 seconds. So around about a minute now, I think, since the pings. And you can expect a brawl, because if the red team wins, they put themselves at an extremely significant advantage. And, you know, if the blue team wins, they put themselves in a position to claim the soul and, you know, even the game. And by that, I don't mean equalize the game. I mean they might win it there and then if they win a 5v5 here. Binding does land. The Taric takes a little bit of a chunk, but not too much. And, yeah, we're going to take another big fight here very, very shortly. The Ezreal has decided to farm Krugs while the fight is going down. Who had to flash there? It was the Lux. The Vayne doesn't have flash. And that's an important cooldown to be thinking about at this point. Because if the Vayne does not have flash, the Vayne does not have any ability to dodge bindings outside of the queue. Which will make it more difficult. They're going to go for the Infernal Soul. The Vayne needs to get this. He doesn't. He just accepts that the Infernal Soul is going over. Now, the Vayne should stay in the Death Realm here to kill the Mordekaiser when nobody else can interfere. That is very, very true. Looks like he will. Dodges out on the Taric stun. He's getting the lifesteal. The true damage is coming through. Unfortunately, the Ezreal ult misses, but that was very nearly a penta for the Vayne. It does look, however, like the team does not have any ability to really push into the Ezreal at full health, so... yeah, I mean, it's been pretty strong so far this game. Very back and forth, very entertaining. And the Vayne is certainly putting in the work, but the question is, Can the Vayne avoid making that one fatal mistake? Because if she can, that might be the game. And if she can't, well, then it will be the game for the other team. What have we got now? Morgana pushing out the top waves. The waves in bot lane being answered by Ahri. And the Gragas is clearing out the supers in the mid lane. Let's do a quick itemization check-in on the Vayne. The Vayne now has Mortal Reminder and Blade of the Ruin King rounding themselves out at full build. And that is going to make it very difficult because there's going to be a lot of healing reduction for the Taric now. And the Taric healing was very important. Nice Morgana binding there. Completes the pick that the Lee Sin set up. Morgana has had a very good game with those bindings. The 0-14-6 Ahri on the other side, unfortunately, is struggling just a little bit. In fact, this has been a very bloody game in general. The Gragas goes over the wall seeking the escape and finds out that there is none to be had. And goes down. They're pinging the Baron right now, and the Lux does look like she is aiming for a binding. The Vayne does go in, but the Jhin, with the flash out immediately, takes half his health to an Ezreal ult, but does not die. And the Lux right now is taking a chunk of damage from the Mordekaiser. The Lee Sin is hunting the Vayne, who got off to the side, taking the base gate to get out of the way. The Lee Sin Q does land with the Infernal Soul, doing a little bit of damage, but he does not follow it this time around. And the top lane tier 2 goes down thanks to the Morgana and Taric push, while the pressure in the base is being applied. Now the Vayne is stacking. Oh wait, not stacking anymore, it's not the same thing. The Vayne is in a position to clean this up if she's lucky. Binding is blocked there by the Black Shield. And the Morgana has been a really useful pick, stopping a lot of these bindings this game. And making it very difficult for the Vayne to capitalize on the CC. So, the contest for Baron is about to happen. It looks like we are going to see very shortly how this goes. Nice binding onto the Ahri there. The ult coming out onto the Gragas from the Morgana. The flash into the double bind. Instant nuke removes the Jhin and the Taric. The Ahri does survive for a second but goes right back in. And it looks like this fight was won by the Lee Sin, whose single crippling strike ends that fight. I don't think he can win because the Ezreal lives up in 3 seconds, but the inhib is going to go down again. And that is a point of pressure on the map for the blue team. The ult does come out to try and assist with the wave clear, but the Lee Sin has taken it out. And it looks like he's just going to walk out the base, ignoring that turret, because who gives a shit about turrets anyway? And he's going to push that into the top lane and try and take the top lane inhib. Alright, ladies and gentlemen. Looks like that will be stopped by the Ezreal. There are no super minions yet in mid lane to draw his attention, so that wave will be cleared out. Looks like he's fishing, looking for the Q. Takes a little bit of damage from the Ezreal, who says, "Get the fuck off my lawn," and the Lee Sin does, but also just walks away. I think the blue ward there spotted the Lee Sin, so that wasn't blind. I thought it was for a second and was about to compliment his prediction skills, but that was not blind. And it looks like flash binding from the Lux does miss, although the damage from the E does come through. Jhin squeaks out there because the Vayne was more concerned about the potential Baron take. And to be fair, I would have been too. Gonna have to be careful. This turret is pretty healthy, but any super minions that make it unchecked, there is a TP on the Mordekaiser with the Nash's Tooth that could come through and cause some problems. Ahri manages to avoid the binding there, crucially, because that would hand over the fight pretty quickly to the red team if they were to go down again. Nice chunk of damage comes through onto the Morgana, but is immediately answered by the Mordekaiser E into Q combo over the wall. Lee Sin goes in, is charmed, and immediately loses a lot of health. The Ahri just manages to squeak out, and the Morgana does go down to the Lux ult. Very strongly done there. So, the Vayne is hunting right now, but the Elder Dragon is up. And despite a numbers advantage, Red Team is going to claim position. And I think position here is going to be very important. With the Infernal Soul, they are burning this down, and I think that the blue team has been caught with their pants around their ankles and their deck in the air, because this is going over to the red team, and I think that might well just be it. I don't see how they survive this. That's a nice smooth play from the Lee Sin there. And that's the Ahri death to the W. It's now a 2v5, and I guess they're going to go for the Baron, just for the Baron minions, but feels like this is going to be over very quickly. Nori is going to have to make a last-ditch effort to try and stop this with double buffs. But, yeah, that's... It's rough. It's over. The Zonias and the QSS. I don't know why he QSS there, to be honest. I would have rather fought the Mordekaiser in the Death Realm. The Mordekaiser TP is flying out to the bot lane to try and put pressure on the turret as the rest of the team floods into the mid lane, bringing a veritable horde. Actually, a very small amount of super minions with them. Aniki's probably going to bring the veritable horde in through the bot lane. And the Ezreal is going to have to back off. The Elder Dragon is still active. The Ahri Chime goes wide, hits the minion. Ahri is instantly deleted. The Q takes the Lee Sin on top of the Lux, and it allows her to execute him with the kick. The Vayne is dead. The ult comes over the top, and the Nexus goes down. The Crimson Lions claim a 3-1 lead in tonight's Community Night Battle scores.